Hi, welcome to Ezayola Online English. In today's tutorial, we shall be looking at adverbial clause. Adverbials are actually, part of the clauses that is, very, very important. Of course, when challenges of examination comes, we notice under the comprehension, there are often times you see questions like, what grammatical names could be given to the above underlined expressions as used in the sentence and all that? Questions like that. And when it concerns adverbial clauses, we notice that it is always, very challenging to most students. And that's why we want to look at adverbial clauses under the adverbials. Now, remember, before we make progress, remember that clauses involve, group of words. And the most important thing to take note of in clauses is the fact that they admit verbs. There must be the presence of the verbs in clauses. But then the clauses, like you know already, that they are grouped or divided into two types. We have the main clause, we have the subordinate clauses, of course. But whether main or subordinate clauses, the point is that the presence of the verb in clauses is a necessity. It is a must. Now, when we look at the board this morning, what we have before us under the adverbial clauses, we have already established expressions, and we have underlined part of the expressions, and we want to take our time to single out the points we need to emphasize on. The first one says, she arrived home after the police had gone. She arrived home after the police had gone. Now look at it. This is an entire, a complete expression, sentence, of course. She arrived home when after the police had gone. Now you notice something, that part of the expression had been underlined, after the police had gone, okay? Now, if you remove this, if we decide to remove this, okay, from the sentence, to some extent, the leftover is going to still make a partial sense, okay? We could say, she arrived home. Yes, that's an expression that is complete. But then, this is talking about time. The time she arrived home. When was that? She arrived home when after the police had gone. That's why it is talking about adverbial clause of what? Time. Because the leftover expression, or rather, the underlying expression is telling us about the time this particular person, she arrived home. She arrived home. What time? After the police had gone. So this is an adverbial clause of time. Why adverbial? Like I said, why a clause? Like I told you, clauses must admit the presence of verbs. It is a necessity. Look at it. Had, gone. They are the verbs that are contained in the expression. Remember, please, adverbials answer the question when. We could ask a question under this expression, when did she arrive home? When was that? And the answer is after the police had gone. Our answer indicates or tells us that the expression, which is our answer, is an adverbial clause of time, because adverbial answer the question when. They could answer the question when. All right, let us look at number two. Number two says, we arrived where they held the show. Look at it very critically. We arrived, where was that? Where did we arrive? Where? Where they held the show. This is also talking about adverbial clause of what? Place. Adverbial clause of place. Telling us where we arrived. The question is, where did we arrive? Where they held the show. So the place or where they held the show is actually a place. a particular place we arrived. So that is why it is an adverbial clause. It answers the question where, all right? Adverb answers the question when, it answers the question where, it answers the question how often, and so on. We are going to talk about all of them. But the second one, like I said, answers the question where. And the answer is telling us about the place we arrived. Where was that? Where they held the show. And look at it again. We have the verb here, to be held. Remember, clauses must have verb. Apart from adverbial clauses, we have adverbial phrases. And students could wonder, it's possible for a student to wonder, or a learner of English language, how do we differentiate between adverbial phrases and clauses? That's why we must have to be conscious of the presence of the verbs in adverbial clauses. The first one I have shown you, had gone. That's where we have the verb. And then the second one, held. The presence of the verbs is a necessity. And because of this, that's why it is an adverbial clause, not phrase. Take note. Now we look at the next example. The hungry child ate as though he had never seen food before. Now, if you look at this, the hungry child ate. How did he eat? How? How was the eating? How did the child eat? As though he had never seen food before. Now, this is talking about manner, the manner with which the hungry child ate. Okay? So it answers the question, like I said, adverbials answers the question, how? Somebody could ask, how did the hungry child eat? He ate as though he had never seen food before. So this is telling us, about this is actually an adverbial clause of manner, because it answers the question, how did the hungry child eat? And again, we look at something, the presence of the verb, as though he had. He had. Look at seen. The possibility of more than one verb to exist in an expression or in any of the clauses is obtainable. So here we have had, seen, and so on. All right? Telling us that this is actually a clause. What type of clause? Adverbial clause of manner. All right. The next one, she danced so well that people admired her. All right? The expression reads again, she danced so well that people admired her. Now, what do we notice here? We are looking at degree, the extent of the dance, the extent. So this should be what? An adverbial clause of degree, telling us the extent to which the dance took place. What extent? To what extent did she dance? To what extent that people admired her? So this is an adverbial clause of what? Degree. Degree, okay? Degree as in this way, okay? Telling about extent, to the extent to which an action is done. And look at the verb. Remember, whenever we mention adverbial clause, from the underscored expression, there must be, it's a necessity, there must be the presence of the verb. If not, we see reason to begin to consider phrase. But the difference between a phrase and a clause is just the presence of the verbs in the clauses and the absence of the verbs in the phrases. So because we have the presence of the verbs here, admired, all right? That's why it is a clause. We look at the next example. If it rains tomorrow, I shall not leave the house. Now listen to this. If it rains tomorrow, I shall not leave the house. What are we seeing here? Somebody is talking about reason for not leaving the house tomorrow. And it is a kind of condition. He is giving a condition for not leaving the house tomorrow. And what's the condition? If it rains tomorrow. For condition, the condition, the condition that will make me or make him, whoever, not to leave I shall not leave the house. If it rains tomorrow, I shall leave the house. I'm sorry about that. That was a misinterpretation. If it rains tomorrow, I shall not leave the house. If it rains tomorrow, I shall not leave the house. So this is adverbial clause of condition. the condition for not leaving the house tomorrow, that's what we have here. If it rains tomorrow. What is your condition for not leaving the house tomorrow? And the answer is, if it rains tomorrow. And then look at the rains here. That's a verb. The verb, remember, must appear in the clauses. So this is seen as what? Adverbial clause of condition or reason, whatever. Now, finally, we have the boy was punished. The boy was punished. Why? Why was the boy punished? Because he insulted the teacher. Now, common sense will tell you that this is telling us the reason for the boy's punishment. Okay? What was the reason for the boy's punishment? Because he insulted the teacher. So, if you are asked, what is the adverbial clause or the name, grammatical name that could be given to the underlined expression, we tell the people or the person or the examiner, whoever that is in charge, that on confidence, it is an adverbial clause of condition. Reason rather, please. Reason. The boy was punished. Why? Because he insulted the teacher. Not condition, please. We have condition here, but here we have it as adverbial clause of reason. Reason for which the boy was punished. Now, apart from these points I have made, I expect you to also understand something. Normally, in exam situations, you notice where they will underline expressions such as this, the way we've done exactly, and they will ask you what grammatical names could be given. Now, when your answer becomes adverbial, whether phrase or clause, the next question normally is, what is their function? That function is very paramount, very important. We take note of that. Like in the first one, we have it as adverbial clause. You know, she arrived home when, adverbial clause of time, okay? Because it is talking about after the police had gone, telling us the time she arrived home. Then the next question is, to answer the question adverbial clause, which is the grammatical name, is one. The next thing is to be able to talk about its function. What is the function of this adverbial clause of time? Is it time? Or rather, yes, time. Adverbial clause of time. What is its function in this sentence? The function is that it is modifying the verb arrived. Have you seen it? What is the function of adverbs? Adverbs modify verbs, okay? So it modifies the verb arrived. And this one, it equally modifies the verb arrived, all right? Where they held the show. The verb that is contained in the adverbial clause shouldn't be the verb it modifies. Rather, it will modify verbs that is outside its content. And that's why the only verb we have here is arrived, apart from the one that is inculcated, existing in the content itself. So it is modifying this verb for number two. The hungry child ate as though he had never eaten before. Talking about adverbial clause of manner. What is its function? It is modifying the verb ate. Please take note. Modifying the verb ate. And the next one says, she danced so well that people admired her. Talking about adverbial clause of degree of the dancing, you know, the level of the dancing. All right, what is the function? The function is that it is modifying the verb danced. Okay, the next one, what is the function? It is modifying the verb live. Okay, and then we have the boy was punished. Why? Because he insulted the teacher. And what is the function of this adverbial clause? It is modifying the verb punished. You can see what we have done this morning. So it is good and very ideal for students to take note of this. In our subsequent videos, we shall be going into more details on the adverbial clauses and phrases. But for the meantime, if you've really enjoyed what you've watched, kindly subscribe to our channel and follow us on Facebook, Ezayola Online English. Thank you very much.